This what it need to be.
Isn't his name Daniel Bryanson?
Right here. Woo! Wrestlers, if you hear me, use your common sense.
Yes. You know the vibes. The fourth man over here.
AKA Chico de Oro de Cashport. Yo tengo muy grande verga de todo.
Charlotte, that Flair.
It's gonna be the greatest episode of all time.
Woo! Hold on. Yes, the guys are back with a doubleheader. I'm Eve, that's Manny, and joined with us today is a very special guest, WWE's artist in residence. You might have seen him on Canvas to Canvas, his weekly YouTube show. You might have seen some of his work on the WWE Shop. You might have even seen his recent work on WWE 2K23. We have the one and only Rob Schamberger here with us today. And the crowd goes crazy.
Thanks for having me here.
Of course.
My cats are very excited.
How many cats do you have?
2.
All right, what are the names? We got to know the names.
Korma, he's our old man, and Kima, she's the young upstart girl.
A
nice.
blue chipper.
Yeah. Future legend.
Right?
Yeah. I'm definitely allergic to cats.
Oh, what a bummer.
Yeah, I look like Will Smith in Hitch every time I'm around a cat. It's pretty terrible. But it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Yes.
So where do I begin, right? I've seen in interviews that you started art around the age of 7.
Yes.
I've seen also that, you've fallen in love with wrestling and you were able to combine the two, which is also, I might add, the best of both worlds. You're a very lucky man to be able to have, both things that you're passionate about, to be able to combine them and make a living.
Very fortunate. Yeah. Thank you. It started, around 7 or 8, got my first comic book and spent the weekend redrawing it. And I was like, I want to do this. And it's just stuck with me ever since. And it was about, I'd say about 11 years ago now, I had the idea to mix fine art and pro wrestling, and 10 years with WWE now. Yeah, took off pretty quick.
Congratulations.
So with your style, I feel like you have this style where it's like an explosion of colors that just makes something pop out more than what it was before. It could be like an action shot of somebody doing something, but then, the way that you put the layers of painting down, it just gives it a different life. So was this always your style of art, or did you, once you decided, okay, I'm going to add wrestling to this or live action elements to this, now it's going to be what I do? Like, how do you decide this is the art style I'm going to stick with?
A multi-part question there. I think my origin with comic book art and superhero art especially, that kind of old school, because I'm an old man, 4-color printing process, really bright in your face colors, that just stuck with me on this is how you're supposed to make art. And for a long time of wanting to be a comic book artist, making that kind of look, it stuck with me. And superhero to pro wrestling, especially WWE, it's not that big of a leap, right? The same kind of action, the same kind of poses, everything, gritted teeth, what have you. It was a very easy transition to do that. And also it's really important, especially with the wrestling art for me, that it doesn't just look like the person, but it gives the person looking at the painting the same feeling as when they're watching, especially on TV. And so a lot of the color work that I do is more emotional. It's more for impact, to give you that kind of feeling. And then also it's constant experimentation for me. Other people looking say that I have a distinctive style, but for me it's constant experimentation, trying to always grow, not get stuck with one specific certain look.
Right.
I heard once that style is just the way that an artist deviates from photorealism. So
Mm.
like in the movie Walk the Line, when they ask Johnny Cash, like, well, why do you play guitar that way? And he's like, I'm just trying to play as fast as I can.
Right.
For me, it's like I'm just trying to do the best with each painting, and I guess because I'm the one making them, they come out looking kind of similar and as a body of work.
Mhm.
Right.
You mentioned that you were with officially you've been with the WWE for about 10 years now.
Mhm.
And that's obviously a lot of just painting, a lot of just creation. What keeps you motivated to, keep going, or what keeps you just rolling? You know what I'm saying? Because it can, I guess, even with this podcasting, it can get mundane sometimes. So, like, what gets you going?
You know, for one thing, they're putting out so much all the time,
Hmm.
that there's definitely something new for me to do, or something from back in the day that I can throw back to with the art. Whether I'm doing a Macho Man or an Austin Theory,
Hmm.
there's a really wide range for me to work from. Plus, a lot of times for me, it's like I want to experiment with this medium or do this technique or something like that, and then I try to find the best subject to match that, and that keeps it really fresh for me. Also, I think because like I started doing this on my own, and then WWE brought me under the umbrella, that because of that, like I'm doing this because I want to, not because I have to.
Right. With that being said, do you get like assignments for, hey, so we would like you to paint these people? Or is it more of a, you get inspired this week, you're like, you know what, today I'm gonna draw John Cena and then next week I'm gonna think about drawing I don't even know.
It's
Oscar or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like, is it a random person that just comes to your mind, or is it
I'm
assignment
definitely
based?
self-driven on that.
Hmm.
They give me a platform, and all the rest is on me.
Mm.
Okay.
Um, Occasionally, if there's something big going on, like uh, the last ride match,
Hmm.
they asked me to do something around that, or
Hmm.
definitely like with 2K, they were like, John Cena, we want you to do this specific pose, stuff like that.
Right.
But for like the regular work that I do, like the stuff that comes directly from me, I'm totally self-driven on that. They give
Nice.
me complete freedom. Like there's no approval, there's no revisions. They like what I do, and they let me do it, and it's
Yeah.
pretty amazing.
So they just let the artist be the
Yeah,
artist,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they just, well, that has to be great that you just
you have that
like,
freedom.
it's total, yeah,
yeah.
total belief by giving you all of that
It's
freedom.
fantastic, and I even own my work.
Oh,
Um, they get
wow.
their cut of the sales, but I
Hmm.
actually like own the work.
Hmm.
I had dinner once with a headhunter from DC Comics, and he asked me to like lay out my deal to him, and I did pretty much just like I just did, and he's like, "Man, don't ever leave there." He's like, we can't do that for you.
So
Now,
go
yeah,
ahead,
you go.
Manny.
So with that, like, do you still get into that comic book realm now that comics are, one of the biggest movers in the industry, with movies being a thing?
Mm.
Yeah.
Do you think about like, okay, now I want to write? Do you want to write your own, or do you?
I would definitely love to write instead of draw a
Hmm.
comic. They're a ton of work to do them to the quality that I would want to do, which I
Hmm.
don't even feel I have the skills for. Um,
yet.
Yeah. Well, I I don't want to diminish anything that a comic book artist does because I feel that they can draw circles around me all day, every
Mhm.
day. But I get paid very well to do one painting instead of
Right.
however many illustrations per page for 20 to 24 pages an issue. I've done cover work here and there, that I enjoy that a lot, but also like, I enjoy just buying them and reading them,
Mhm.
and not having
Yeah.
to worry about like competition or like trying to get a job or whatnot. Like I'm making a very good living with what I do already, and it's very creatively fulfilling. So I get
Mhm.
to just kind of be like how I was originally as a kid and just enjoy the things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's dope. I want to go back to 2K for a second.
Yeah.
And them and WWE reaching out to you and telling you, hey, we got John Cena's our cover athlete this year. This is what we want you to do. Can you like walk us through that and how you felt and everything when you got that call?
Yeah, I've done work with 2K for quite a while, here and there. Like, I'm sorry, I can't remember all the years. I think it was maybe 2016 for the special edition. I did a painting of Nakamura that came with that. It was like a internal print, not on the cover.
Mhm.
And I've done stuff with like Supercard as well. So I've got very good friends at 2K from all the work that I've done with them. So it was actually from them.
Mhm.
They reached out and asked if I'd be interested in this. I'm like, let me think. Yes, yeah, I would like to do this because I know how big a deal it is. I know vi- like video games, gaming is the number one form of entertainment in the world
Mhm.
now, and it's a huge audience, and they promoted it with me like in their social channels and all. Like my signature is there on the cover. It's
Mhm.
for the icon edition. I'm not allowed to see how well it did, but it did very well. Uh, so I don't. I'm hopeful that it's not the last cover I do with them.
One
There
of
were
many.
Right.
definitely more notes, more revisions on that than what I normally do, but I expected that going in,
Mhm.
because of how huge a thing a cover like this is, especially with how big a star John has become.
Mhm.
But even with that, because of how comfortable WWE is with me as well as their audience, it was still a relatively easy approval process, which 2K was very happy with that too.
Mhm. So I have a question. This is more of like a in general thing with all of your art.
Sure.
Like, when was one of the first times you realized, oh, this one thing that I'm doing right now is gonna like stand the test of time? Like, this is a piece that people will see for forever now. Like, especially with that 2K cover, that's always gonna be a 2K cover, especially with how iconic it looks. But also, you have drawings of other superstars that are also just iconic pieces of art. Did you ever have a moment where you realize, oh, this is like something that's here forever? This is my stamp in the
Um,
world.
no.
Yeah. Oh, well, this is
I
that
mean, like
moment.
the 2K one is huge. But I really view it all as a body of work and not one
Mm-hmm.
individual piece.
Okay.
Everything that I do, I learn from. Like everything falls short of what I want from it. Even like,
Mm-hmm.
although occasionally, like I'll do something where I feel like I break through to a new level of craftsmanship, but then all of a sudden I'm like, well, crap. Now I got to do that every time. So for me, it's the growth and the body of work instead of one specific piece.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, you're here. I mean, you're doing it. So
Thank you.
the body of work proves itself.
Exactly.
Thank you.
When you look at a blank canvas, like tell me about, because I'm not an artist. I've always been jealous of artists in high school because it's like, all right, like you could kind of like BS through like English with some poetry. You could kind of, everybody could write a little rap here and there, make a little beat on FL Studios, but only the best of the best could draw and paint and I was not one of those people. You know what I'm saying? So
I wouldn't even know where to put the pen down to start drawing something
Less
if I was
competition for
told
me.
to
That's
do it.
all right.
like when I've looked at videos of like how you do your art and everything, it just seems like so effortless, just the way like every stroke that you make with the with the brush and everything. So like when you look at a canvas, what's in your head and how do you, I guess, project that onto the canvas?
I do work with reference, especially for the likenesses.
Hmm.
So I've kind of got a starting point, and then I have a general idea for like the palette of colors that I'm going to use, the technique that I'm going to do, and what the process is for each different kind of technique. Like each medium is different the way you work with it. Watercolor and acrylic are actually like opposite in the way that you apply the paint. So I always say it's real similar to like freeform jazz, where the band starts together and they know where they're going to end up together,
Hmm.
and they improvise in between. So not too often, but even occasionally, like halfway through a painting, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go this different direction. Like what I had in mind isn't working, so I'm going to go this different way with it. But generally, I have like an ideal for how I want it to end up, and I
Hmm.
kind of just improvise my way until I get to that.
Mm.
That movie Soul. If I never watched that movie, I would have never understood what jazz would have been like. Improvised jazz.
Oh man, I live in Kansas City, which is a huge jazz town, like jazz and
Mm,
barbecue. That's what we got.
right.
And there's a club that's been going since like the early 1900s.
Oh.
Every night, and on like certain nights of the week, starting at midnight, if you have an instrument, you can come in for free, and they all just
Wow.
jam. And then for the rest of us, we just get to get some beers and watch. A lot of them are like college students or professors, and they'll jam. And like famously, like Prince, whenever he would come to town, he would keep the band playing until like noon the next day.
What?
Like,
Jeez.
yeah.
That seems like a very
Yeah,
Prince thing to do.
Yeah.
the band playing for 14 hours straight.
Right. It's like if you're there when Prince is playing, what are you gonna do? Say like, "Nah, dude, I got to go home."
Yeah.
Right? No.
Oh my God.
Whatever
Yeah.
else you got
Tape
going
up your
on.
fingers and just get to work
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
guitar.
yeah.
Well, just now you mentioned like sometimes like you go wherever the art takes you, right? I've heard music producers say that sometimes like when they start a beat and they don't know where to go, they either scrap it or they'll just move on to something else. Is that something that you've done also, where you start a project and you kind of don't know where to go, so you just like you either scrap it or you move on to something completely different and revisit it later?
There have been times where I'll like go all the way through on a painting, and when I'm done, I'm like, this isn't. I didn't do anything good with this one.
Hmm.
Like the painting itself may not be bad, but I don't feel like it was to my uh desire
Your
for it.
standard.
Yeah. So I'll redo it from like a different direction. But that happens not too often anymore. Once a year at maximum. Also, I'll work on several paintings at a time. Especially now, like in the past few months, I'll have a warm up painting that I'll do to kind of get myself in the groove, and then I'll switch over to like a more focused thing.
It's like you're off season, like you're
Yeah,
a
yeah,
Get
basketball
something
player or
different.
a baseball player.
yeah. You got to get
Yeah,
the
let me
skills
just
up.
get the rust off.
Yeah. Um, and then I have a what's called a wrestling landscape painting that I work on, that are like these huge, like physically huge, but also like WrestleMania scenes where there's 70,000 people in the background. Those
Mhm.
take several months.
Wow.
So I'll have like I release a new painting like every other week, and then in between I'm also working on the landscape. So there's a lot of different skill sets I use over the course of a week or even within a day.
How do you know you're done, like with that landscape. Like, so you, and this is kind of like what I asked you before we started going, where I was just like joking around asking, how do you know when you're done with a painting?
Yeah.
But like when you know that, all right, this is a massive piece that I'm working on, it's going to take a lot of time. Like, you know, like with me, where I'm playing a video game, I'm like, all right, let me just keep going. And then you reach the level and you're like, let me keep going to the next one. How do you know when you're done for the day or the night with that massive piece of art?
Like in the course of each day, it's kind of like I'm at a stopping point, or my wife is ready for dinner. You know, like that kind of decides that. But as far as like the piece itself, like when I'm done, is it kind of tells me. I know that sounds like hoity-toity, but it tells me when it's done. Like I'll have that feeling of like, okay, I accomplished everything on this. I'm ready to move on to the next one. Also, it depends on the mediums I'm working on. Like there was a Roman Reigns one from last year's SummerSlam that I'm really happy with. That was ink and watercolor. So I was done with the watercolor stage, and then with the ink, you can definitely overwork it with ink. So like basically like I had finished it with the way that I approach, and knew like, okay, if I do one more mark on this, it's ruined.
Right.
So stop here. But man, that one was nerve-wracking because Roman's face was the last damn thing on that whole painting I did. And it's like he's not too big on the painting, so like it's tiny details for the facial features. And like his hair's in the way, and you know he's got those beautiful teeth now, and I was like, man, like if my hand jumps or something at the wrong moment on this, all this work is done.
Oh my god! High
So
pressure situation.
Definitely on that one. Like when I got that like final correct line, I'm like, put it all down, move this thing across the room. I'm done.
God forbid you get a hand cramp.
Oh boy, yeah. I do hand yoga.
Oh wow.
You worked with a ton of people like Mattel, Topps, WWE, 2K. Is there anybody that you want to work with that you haven't gotten the chance to work with yet?
Let's see. As far as the partners, like I really get kind of everyone that wants to work with me, we get to. WWE is really cool about that. So
especially because they're in so many different,
oh yeah,
you know, brands and partners and everything that they have. So you kind of have a pick of the litter with what you want to work with in a way.
Like a dream project for me would be a whole line of painted trading cards.
Ooh.
Oof.
Like the whole roster, right?
Yeah.
You know, like I've done
God.
like work with Topps when they had the license where I would do like 10 cards. I want to do 100, 200, right? Like I want that whole dang roster.
That would be fire.
Yeah,
like I grew up on like the Marvel and DC trading cards. Like there was this series called Marvel Masterpieces that an artist named Joe Jusko did all the Marvel characters all painted. And like as a kid, I'm like, yo, I want to do this. Like someday I'll get to do that.
Yeah, I hope it happens, to be honest. I'm a big trading card guy.
On.
You know, blurred out too, you know. But I'm a big
I was like,
fan
what are those cards of that they're blurred out? What you got in there? Send me some.
Yeah, until they send me some, they're gonna be blurred right
Not
here.
safe for work there, man.
But I kind of want to, you know, move on from, well, not move on, but we'll circle back.
Yeah.
But comic books, you know, like I said earlier, it's one of the biggest things in entertainment right now. Disney has, you know, the chokehold on the comic book live action.
Right.
Seen. I feel like, to me, DC's animated movies and shows are very underrated, but properly rated, that with people that watch it,
Yeah.
they understand that, it's quality. Like, what are your thoughts on now all of these comic books that you would read? Now they're coming to life. You're seeing Invincible, after like 20 years of it being written,
The
is
Invincible
now a hit
cartoon's
show.
dope, and
Yeah.
The Boys is really good.
Hmm.
I uh maybe it's because I'm a grumpy old man, I don't know, but like I like my superheroes in comic books.
Hmm.
um like I enjoyed the Marvel stuff for a while, and then I kind of tapped out,
Yeah.
just as a
It's a lot.
personal preference,
Yeah.
like people work hard on that stuff,
Hmm.
and it's just, it's not my flavor of ice cream that I like,
Hmm.
um and like some of the shows, like that first season of Daredevil, that was really good. That was a really good show.
Yeah.
And there's been bits here and there, but I love the comic books. I don't know
Yeah.
if you want to say purist, or I just love the work that goes into the drawings, because that's what spurred my love on.
Right. Yeah, that's why I wanted to know, because I'm like, a lot of people who enjoy comic books, it doesn't mean that you have to love these on-screen adaptations of what they are, because I feel like I'm not a big comic book guy anymore, but for example, like the Guardians of the Galaxy,
Uh-huh.
sometimes it's a hit, it's spot on of what people want. Sometimes it's like, all right, this isn't what I was actually reading. This is some other thing that's going on.
Yeah, which is
But
cool. And
yeah,
obviously
exactly.
way more people love those movies and shows than read the comics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm one of those guys, like when you're walking into a theater and you can split to the right or left and everyone goes to the right, I'm going to
Mhm.
walk to the left.
Right.
Cuz it's easier to get to your seat, right?
Mhm.
And with like comic books, I also enjoy that thing of when you read them, your imagination is
Mhm.
what's putting it all together. All the action and everything is like happening in your head.
Mhm.
I love that kind of experience. That it's a very personal thing. Whereas with the movie or the show, you're more of a passive participant in it.
Right.
It's not even like with wrestling where you get to yell at the heel that he's a bum or whatever. And especially like in an indie show, like that can like change the whole show. Like all of a sudden that
Right.
guy's yelling at you, you're part of the show. Like that's one of the things I love about pro wrestling, right? Bringing that back around, like especially when you're there at it, and most especially at like a small indie show, like you're part of it, and that's awesome.
Mm.
Mm.
I want to know what you think about, well, especially right now. There's been, I guess we're in like a phase of booming AI, right? So we got the Chat
Yeah.
GPTs. People are using it to write essays. So Manny did it to write a script for like a rom com. The other,
I got a whole podcast episode from ChatGPT. It
Yeah.
was something.
but I want to know what you think. And now we've seen like AI artwork. So like, what do you think about the rise of AI?
There's a lot of ethical stuff to be worked out first. I view it as a tool
Mhm.
that I'm not personally using at this time, because there's again a lot of ethical stuff to be worked out, especially like the on the artwork side. What it's doing is a database of other people's artwork was put into this system that these artists are not paid for, that
Mm-hmm.
was all done without their knowledge or consent, and it's stealing their styles, their work, and then using it as like a filter over a photograph. um that's not cool.
Yeah.
And that's not something I'm on board with. That said, I see a big future for it as a starting point, as like inspiration
Mm.
for an artist. Like throw some prompts in, see what these things look like, and that saves time on like putting together a sketch or a mock-up in Photoshop or whatever. Like, throw some of these ideas together and then make your art from there.
Yes, use it as reference almost.
But as a thing unto itself, there's really big ethical problems. There's like some big class action lawsuits happening around it. I'm concerned for artists whose careers are not as far along as mine is. That's going to take jobs away from them, and take some food out of some mouths, and that's not awesome to me. I know that that's the way things progress. Like when digital became a thing, that changed a lot. That took away a lot of different careers people could have, like especially in like things like pre-press. So there's going to be changes coming. As a traditional artist, I'm pretty insulated from it. Digital artists, they're going to be affected by it first, and then also like the people who are just starting their careers or are fairly early in it, there's going to be less opportunities for them.
I don't know. I feel like it's every single creative in every creative field is affected negatively by AI technology, and like now, where people are using it because it's cool. It's just something, a trendy little thing
something to try out,
work with. But now, when you think about it, it's in like people are writing scripts like I did for a whole episode. It's making art. It's making music. It's, people can be a celebrity and have a celebrity say something.
Yeah,
but
it's at the center of the writers' strike.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the studios and the Writers Guild both see like we need to get out ahead of this. We need to get some protections in place because like I think the studios are even looking at like, do we need writers? And that's scary, right? Because there's like some movies like Men in Black 3, they were over halfway through shooting that movie before a script was written. Yeah. So what if they could just throw in some prompts, right? That's not.
And that's
so
why
awesome.
Getting into it now is like kind of important, because to me, to be honest, nothing from AI has been actually good.
Right.
Like it just makes,
but it will be, which is what.
It makes a general idea of what you're trying to get it to do, but it's not what anybody really wants at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And 5-10 years from now, it might be exactly what if you type in this exact prompt, it'll put in exactly what you want.
Yeah. And I think
getting ahead of it now is important.
The general mainstream audience isn't as concerned. They see a neat thing or neat enough thing, and that's cool for them. For the people that really get into stuff like we do, or where you want to support one specific person, are you going to say like, yo, I'm a real big fan of ChatGPT's art style? No, right? Like, and to me, it kind of goes to, there was an episode of 30 Rock where Liz Lemon was feeling dejected as a writer, and she was walking down the street and she sees a poster for like Transformers 7 or whatever, and she reads the credits and it says written by no one. And like that's not a like that was kind of a joke and also kind of a we're kind of headed this way.
Here we are.
Yeah, now we're there.
Yeah.
We could pivot out of AI and everything.
Thank you.
Let's get into the happier parts.
Right. It got real dark, but
Invincible, really good show.
Yeah, I love it. The Boys is great.
Into happier thing. I want to know: do you have a holy grail piece that the world has not seen yet, but you've done it, and you're like, this is the greatest thing I've ever created, and it's just that.
This is so good, nobody can see it. I need to just.
It's gonna sound like a total cop out, but I swear this is the genuine answer. Is whatever the next thing I'm gonna paint is.
It's a great answer.
I go in. Because I look at it as a body of work, not as individual pieces. That everything that I make is the sum of everything I learned from every other piece before it. So whatever the next thing I'm painting is the thing my entire career has led to. and then that gets me that much more excited for the thing after that.
That's gonna be a clip.
Yeah.
I love what you just said there.
That's a bar.
I loved what you just said there. That was amazing.
That's kind of how I feel about like doing episodes of like the show. It's,
Yeah.
all right, like you might have a good game, you might have. Well, I look at everything as like basketball, right? So it's like, I might have a good game, I might have a bad game, but I know every week I'm gonna come out and try to do better than last week. So,
And as long as you're learning, right?
Yeah.
What worked, what didn't, what happened accidentally that I can do on purpose. All that kind of stuff, it just builds, and if you go in with that mindset, it'll always stay fresh for you, and for your audience, it'll stay fresh for them as well.
definitely.
Do you have something you're avoiding? Like you're like, this isn't. I'm not here. I'm not ready for this right now. I'm gonna just keep putting it on for the day that you're ready.
No. I'm pretty adventurous with my art and my eating. You know, my wife will be like, I want to try out this recipe. I'm like, let's do it. So
It's the spice of life.
yeah. So if there's something where I'm feeling intimidated by it, that's what I'm going to lean into. Like, because for a long time, like for instance, I avoided detail. I was more of a broad stroke guy, like getting that emotion across instead of like the specific, like super detailed stuff. And if I had stuck with that mindset, I wouldn't be doing the wrestling landscape series now, and that stuff's my best selling work. As well as like just the continuing to grow as an artist, right? So like there are certain techniques maybe that I'm avoiding. Like I don't do oil paint, but that's mostly because I don't have a well ventilated space. There's, you know, fumes and stuff, like health concerns.
And the passing out halfway through
right.
the,
Yeah, there's
through the air.
problems with that. So like certain mediums I kind of stay away from. But as far as like subject matter, especially, like, nah, man, I jump right in.
Wow. Have you ever thought? Well, has anybody ever like contacted you to like create gear for them, or maybe even like a tattoo?
I've definitely had fans get tattoos. Yeah. That's a huge honor. And
is it weird though? Are you like, that's not the right style? That should have went.
Well, yeah. Sometimes I'm like, yo, I painted. I did a much better painting of the Undertaker than the one you're picking. But you know, it's what means something to them, right? So like a lot of times people will reach out ahead of time just to get my blessing. And I'm like, yeah, dude. Just like the only thing I ask is that you show me when you're done. That kind of thing. But yeah, like the tattoo thing is wild. Gear, the closest I did, because I'm not much of a designer. It's kind of a different skill set.
Right.
Kind of like hiring an electrician to fix your plumbing, right? But God, who was it? No, it was Aiden English. For his WrestleMania, I think 34 gear. That was in New Orleans, right?
Yeah.
34 in New Orleans. Yeah.
Yeah.
He came out twice that night, and when he came out the second time is when he had shaved his head and he had different gear on, and each leg was one of my paintings of him.
Oh, wow.
Like when he first started, and then like the more recent look. That was really cool, especially for WrestleMania, right?
Yeah.
But
it's the biggest moment of most people's careers, and you're a part of it.
And it was there, and it's forever there. That was huge. And then another thing is the oh shoot, what are they called? Like Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, like David Marquez's. He's got like a national version of it too, like maybe like the United Wrestling Network, something like that. But anyway, for their world title, they used two of my paintings for the side plates on it.
Oh wow.
One of them was Ric Flair versus Harley Race, and then the other one was Adam Pearce versus Colt Cabana. And so like that's out there, and that's really cool. I still haven't seen it in person. Dave and I are friends from way back, but he reached out like, hey, can I use these and for the side plates? I'm like, that sounds great. As long as I don't have to do any additional work, like I'll send you the files, the rest is on you. But it looks really cool.
Yeah, I'm shocked because like even if you don't use like a painting per se for gear, I feel like the colors you use and how you use them could be like they could pop on, you know, tights or something like that. So,
there's a printing process called sublimation where it like pretty much like stains it right into the fabric. Surat Makazi that does a lot of gear for WWE, he and I are pals, and I brought it up to him several times, but a lot of it's really like the talent are super specific about what they want. And it just hasn't happened, which is fine. It's fine. There's so many more approvals for that. It's like I can be over here doing my own thing and enjoying it, or I can get caught up in all that, you know? Yeah.
So we have a segment on the show called "Talk to Me Nice," and it's kind of like a rapid fire. It's kind of like a rapid fire question kind of thing. So let's pivot over into that. The first question I have is from Ken. Oh, also shouts to everybody that's signed up to the Patreon, the Discord. These are questions from them, and I told them, hey, look, we're interviewing Rob. If y'all have a question, let me know. I will ask him. So these are their questions to you.
And they're all like, "Why do you suck so much?"
Well, they usually say that to me.
Stop being a bad artist.
No. All of the hate is directed at me most of the time, so you don't even got to worry about it.
He's not lying.
I got off Twitter. It's great.
I can't wait. I can't wait for that era.
Yeah, it's nice.
But the first question comes from Ken. He wants to know, how did the Canvas to Canvas show come about?
Let's see. I started doing it on my own channel because I was like, well, I can just turn on a couple cameras while I'm working and then edit it together, right? And I was doing that for a little while, and WWE reached out and said like, hey, do you want to move this over to our channel? And I'm like, do I want to go from 30 people watching to millions? Yes, I would like that. We've done over 450 episodes now. It's actually the longest running original show WWE's YouTube has.
Wow.
It's pretty wild. Like nothing else original touches it. Probably like the only things that they're doing that even like it has been going longer would be like NXT, SmackDown, and Raw. It's pretty wild.
So they reached out. They reached out for the art and for the show also.
The show came later.
Okay.
I was doing art with them for a few months, and then they brought that under the umbrella too.
Nice.
Yeah.
And
I shoot,
and you own all of your.
Yeah, it's all me too. Which is really cool too, right? Like kind of an outside person, like making regular content for WWE, and they just give me the space to do that.
That's incredible, man. We got one from KP. He said your art was featured on Ultimate Warrior's duster that he wore in his final WWE appearance. He said it's an incredible piece. How did that come about?
Warrior reached out. We actually had a couple phone calls about it, and he sent there were two dusters, sent those to me, and that was after WrestleMania 30, which WrestleMania 30 is where I publicly debuted with the company at Access. And we got to watch Mania 30 from his box, which was it definitely spoiled me for the rest of my time with them, because we were on the bus to go to the stadium, the Silverdome, right? No, Superdome. Bagging on Hogan there.
Tomato.
Yeah. My wife and I are sitting on the bus, and I see all these lights go by, and I'm like, holy crap, we've got a police escort. She's like, shut up. And yeah,
Oh,
like there
man.
was an escort to get us over there. And then like there's like the friends and family stuff, like we're hanging out with Bruno Sammartino, and then we go up to the box, and I'm thinking like, man, I am into this WWE life, not knowing that's the only time I'm going to experience that.
That's all you need. Your
yeah.
first time to be the greatest time.
And he had me do 2 because the original plan was they were going to do like they had with Stone Cold, I think the year before, where he was going to come out in the tux and then like come out again like as Ultimate Warrior. And they kiboshed that because they thought it was like disrespectful to the rest of the nominees, which I get. The honorees, but then he was going to come out on Raw, and my wife and I were actually driving back that night, and all of a sudden my phone starts blowing up. She was driving, and it's like, oh, he's actually wearing it, because there was like still like didn't know if it was going to happen. And like it's like my signature right there on the sleeve next to the microphone when he's holding it. And then like, so we're not watching it live, so it's actually like the next night we're actually going to watch, and like that segment was about to come up when someone from WWE texted me to say that he'd passed away.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, like roller coaster, right? Like horrible for the family. And then, yeah, just it was a year or 2 ago, Mattel made the figure with the jacket, and that was, and it was actually like my painting, you know, like that they put on there. Yeah, really, really cool experience. Like, he's a problematic dude. Like, we're not going to gloss over that, right? Like, there's problems with that guy. But he, and I don't know that he and I would have kept working together. We got some ideological differences, but he did a lot to elevate my status with WWE, with the audience as a whole, and just incredible opportunity as well.
That's awesome, man.
He was wild to talk to on the phone.
Oh, I could only imagine.
What you see is what you get with that dude. Yeah.
I could only imagine. But with that being said, Zell wants to know, and I've been curious this whole time because you've mentioned like the indies and you work for the WWE, and obviously you've been a fan for years on years by painting, you know, all of these iconic figures from the late 80s, early 90s. What's your favorite era of pro wrestling?
Like with comic books, there's an old joke that what's the golden age of comic books? 13. You know, like whatever the age is where you really get into something. So like I started watching like tail end of the Attitude Era, which that stuff was fun for sure, right? Like Mae Young giving birth to the Hand and that kind of stuff was wild. But I think like the stuff that I enjoyed the most as a fan, and maybe it's muddied up because it's around the time I started working with the company, but like 2015 to like 2017-ish, around there.
It's not because you started working with them. I started so watching again. Yeah, I started watching again around like 2013.
Yeah.
But that like basically from 2013 to 2017, maybe 18.
Yeah.
It's some of the best stuff like I've ever seen.
Great
I've
storytelling,
seen a lot.
The best in-ring work. Just an incredible roster, like from the Shield coming in through
AJ Styles,
those first few waves of Black and Gold NXT, you know, like up through like the Finn and Bayley era, right? 4 Horsewomen, all that stuff. Like it was just a fun time to be watching the shows. Like they were awesome.
It
was legit.
Funny because I think about those times, like just like as far as like wrestling is concerned, and that like that time of my life, and I'm like, that was probably some of the most fun I've had. Period. Like,
I wish I knew the good old days were the good old days in the moment. I'm sitting there, I'm like, Man, 2017 was
What a
amazing.
time.
2016.
I was having a blast, and then like the vast majority of all them behind the scenes are the coolest people. They're just awesome to work with. Like I'm at the shows about once a month behind the scenes, working with the talent, and super cool. But I was always asking like the people that have been there a long time behind the scenes, like when Rock and Austin were doing their thing, like were you all recognizing like what you got going on? And right now with Roman and Cody especially, like my sales are obscene. And
Yeah.
and it's like yeah, I feel like I'm doing better work, but like there's something special when you got two like tippy top stars at the same time. And then now with the women's division, like Rhea Ripley especially, Asuka as well, do very, very well, like sales wise. And yeah, I mean, like the last year or so of WWE has just been a ton of fun to watch as well.
I can imagine artistically, like you have people on the roster like a Cody and Asuka, a Finn, all of these people just like, even when you just see them on TV, they're popping out of life.
Yeah.
And like with your art style, it's probably just like a cakewalk where you're like,
oh
my God, I have so many different things I can work with.
Asuka is so fun. And like my latest Cody piece, I texted him when I was done with it, and I'm like, your jacket looks cool, but I hate painting it. That thing is
it's intricate. So much that goes into these things. Yeah.
That thing is intricate. But yeah, like Asuka is so fun to paint. She's one of those that I say like comic book wise superheroes. When you draw Superman, you're drawing Superman. But if you're drawing Batman, you can do whatever. Right. Asuka is one of those, like Undertaker, Macho Man, Bray Wyatt, like those people where you can like really push it far because they're already doing that. Like the audience is cool with you doing something like really out there. But if I was like doing a John Cena, for the most part, you're doing John Cena, although he's kind of crossed over into that like pop culture status in a big way. So like I did a really surreal piece of him where everything is photorealistic except his face is just blank white, because you can't see him.
Oh, that is amazing.
People love that one. Yeah.
I love the idea of, I need to see this. I'm gonna go look this up after. Oh,
how do
maybe down the road you draw him eating ice cream. Just a free idea for you.
Just throwing that out there.
How do
Bing chilling.
How do these wrestlers react when they see like the finished product of themselves?
It varies, right? Like there's definitely like it's an ego check, right? Like someone that's really into themselves really likes the painting, and people that are like maybe not so much like that are like, yeah, cool. And they're more like they're more digging on the stuff that I've done of the other people.
Right.
And then they all get real excited when I'm painting something that is what they grew up on. That's where they react more. But at least to my face, everyone's very cool about it. Yeah.
Do you notice more people buying like other era things versus the newer people? Like what is more popular, would you say, for your
it's a
your
mix. There's definitely like the childhood part, or like that golden age of comics thing, right? Like like I'll have people buying the 80s stuff, especially like Macho Man, Attitude Era, or even New Generation Era stuff like that. Like mostly like Bret Hart, Razor Ramon, a lot from that time, and Stone Cold. And then like of the modern stuff, definitely like anything Bloodline, Cody, and then the women blanket. People really support the lady wrestlers for sure.
It's amazing.
We got a question from Peeps. She said, who do you think Sammy and Kevin Owens lose their titles to?
First, somewhat related, with since the person asking his name Peeps, Have you ever made a s'mores with a marshmallow Pete?
I have not.
It's amazing. It's amazing. You put it in the oven, the sugar caramelizes, and it's like crispy. Oh, so good. Anyway,
I'm trying to lose some weight.
okay,
here.
well, put something on.
Now
Man.
I'm
This
gonna go
looks
to
good.
this. Yeah, I'm going to the store after this. I need it.
As far as tag teams, like like Imperium's a threat, right?
Mhm.
Imperium is a threat. Seeing them as kind of a dominant team. There's a lot there. There's always the possibility of a fresh team coming up out of NXT, maybe,
Mhm.
or even someone returning. I don't know who that would be. But I feel like Triple H is big on like people holding those titles for a while, right? Like look at what we're talking about with Roman and Bianca, especially, or Gunter as well. Like he's holding on to that thing. So I'd like to see them have a little bit of a run, and maybe like the people that dethrone them aren't even a team right now, that build their way up.
That's true.
Yeah. There's always the possibility of New Day as well, right? Like you can't discount them at all. They could definitely have another championship run in them as well. There's a good tag team now, roster on Raw right now. Although I'm interested to see too, like, are they going to split the titles again? Like I saw a theory, around the draft that like KO goes to Raw, Sammy stays on SmackDown, something like that, and each of them then has to find a new partner. Maybe something like that for a future draft. I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't take up the offer from KO to be his partner.
Yeah.
only because I've seen what he's done before to all of his other.
Yeah, you're eventually taking a power
partners.
bomb on the side of the apron, right?
Yeah. I'm not writing no lists. I'm not doing nothing. You're good over there, champ.
It's like
even if he's handing me the belt,
who beats them? Maybe them just being together.
They beat themselves.
Yeah, it's like I keep saying Roman Reigns' biggest threat to his title is a triple threat match where he doesn't even get pinned, right?
Very true.
Man, this next question is for me.
All right.
Before we started the interview, I told you that I'm somewhat of an artist myself. So with that being said, I would like you to rate my art. This right here
10 out of 10
is a nice little piece that I've done at a sip and paint about a year ago, or maybe 2 years.
I like the colors for sure.
Thank you.
So that just because it's kind of tiny, it's kind of a beach sunset.
Yeah, it's like a boardwalk, I guess you could say that.
Okay.
Let's go with beach. I like beach. We'll say beach.
Yeah, I like beach. We've gotten to that point in our lives that my wife and I get to vacation in Hawaii. So I actually do a lot of stuff from our vacation. So I love it. I'm a big landscape fan, especially tropical stuff. I'm feeling it.
Yeah, and Hawaii's one of the best places to just take in, like, oh my God, this is a crazy.
That's perfection.
Like going over there, the views was just crazy for me to witness.
Last year was our first time, and we stayed in Kauai, and it's just perfect. No notes, perfect.
Yeah, it's an insane, like, the fact that people live there and just get to experience that all the time. I'd be the laziest person ever.
Oh yeah. I would love to just be there, like, painting that stuff, buy a bunch of prints from me so I can disappear to Hawaii.
Yeah, here we go. This is how it starts.
I went to Hawaii. My family, we took a trip to Hawaii when I think I was about 10. And it's to this day, like, I've never, like, seen beauty like that before. Like, the green is greener over there. Like, the mountains are really mountains. Like, everything everything is.
The air tastes different. Right? It's a good tasting air.
Yeah, it feels. Yeah, just perfect. Yeah. It's perfect.
Even like they took us, like, we went on some excursion. They were like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna go swimming with sharks." So like we jump in the water and like we have on like these goggles. I look down and there's a ton of sharks, probably like 50 feet under us. And I'm like, I'm 10. I'm like, this doesn't seem Right.
I've seen this movie.
Yeah. What's going on?
He was actually the only person in the water, and they dressed him up as a seal.
It's like we told him to go swim with sharks.
Yeah.
It was safe.
It's
And
an
he believed
excursion.
it.
Yeah. He made it back onto the boat. They were disappointed, but
Yeah, my wife snorkeled with. She was snorkeling, and then she like looks to her side, and on each side of her were sea turtles swimming with her.
Wow.
you know,
And she like comes right up to the beach, just crying. And I'm like, "What's the matter?" She's like, "Turtles."
life was the matter.
Yeah.
It's just an experience. But I also had another. What are like some other things that you're interested in outside of comic books and wrestling? I feel like we can learn more about Rob. Maybe you're like a big basketball guy, or like
I am not a sport guy at all.
Wow.
I
not that there's anything wrong with that.
yeah, it's just my thing.
Yeah.
Way I grew up. I really like have gotten into gardening. There's this thing of like one, you're like out there like doing something like tactile with your hands, and at the end of the season you've got like food, and then you eat it. And
you have a reward for what you just did, like an actual.
And like the ritual of it, like going out there and watering every day, pulling weeds, that kind of stuff. Like we do a lot of tomatoes, garden tomatoes, like straight from it. Like I didn't know tomatoes were good. And like from the garden,
especially when
really good.
When you make it yourself.
Yeah.
When you garden it, because my grandmother, she used to, when she still does, she plants tomatoes and different fruits. Those tomatoes taste way different than like one from the supermarket.
The reason I found out is like the ones you get in the grocery store, they're fresh, but they pick them when they're still green. And then because so many of them are like grown in like Mexico or like in the southern states, they're picked when they're green, so not fully ripe, and then they gas them, and that turns them red.
Wow.
But they haven't. They've got like a couple weeks less of ripening on the vine. So the ones that like you actually pick from your garden just have like a ton more flavor. And like we like turn it into like pizza sauce, and like last year we did jalapenos, and we pickled them, and then we also candied them. You ever had candied jalapenos?
Never.
Sweet and
Rob,
hot?
you're killing me with the diet thing over
So
here,
good.
man.
I have to have you guys over. We grill pizza.
That would be electric. We got to do
like
it.
we cook our pizza on the grill, and it's so amazing.
A grilled pizza.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
The man said he lives in Kansas City, man. This one thing I don't know much about Kansas City. All I know is Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs and food. So him mentioning all his food is not, you know what I'm saying? It's not I know he knows his way around the kitchen and so.
Wait, isn't Kansas City not in Kansas?
Well, that's a good question.
It's in Missouri?
There are two Kansas cities that are next to each other. One's in Missouri, one's in Kansas. I'm on the Missouri side. But if someone ever here's a pro tip for you, if you want to like real easy way into small talk with someone, if they tell you they're from Kansas City, ask Missouri or Kansas, and you'll have a full conversation.
Here we go. I'm gonna keep that one written down.
This last question I have, we'll close it with this, man. If you could describe your career, your entire body of work with just one word, what would that word be?
Fortunate.
Wow.
I grew up below the poverty line, single parent. All the odds were against me, middle of nowhere. Like I was, outside of Kansas City, especially back then, pre-internet. Like any kind of like cool job just might as well have been in China, right? Other side of the world. And through like believing in myself, and then the advances in technology, and then the support of people around the world, I get to do this. It's I'm very fortunate. Yeah.
It's amazing. Listen, I feel like, maybe we can get you to do Sippin' Paints that you host.
I would love
and
to.
And then that'll fund the Hawaii literature. You're gonna be,
I would love to do that.
Sippin' Paints in the future. That would be so fun.
I a few years ago was trying to do that around WrestleMania. Like it would have been like one of those like pre-WrestleMania week things. and I could not find a venue. And there's like, because people still don't quite take wrestling seriously, right?
Yeah.
And especially like in the art world. And one person even like replied like, "Is this a real question?" Like, are you...
Oh my!
And I'm like,
goodness.
all right, you don't want to make money, all right, you know. But I'll
Rob, let's put that on the.
I'll figure it out
on the vision board for next year's Mania. Yeah. I'd be first in line for that. I'll bring the tequila.
If you ever want to come to Kansas City, I'm sure I could find a venue here pretty easy.
Oh man, now I have a reason to go. I'll
and
be
grilled pizza.
Fake. Yeah,
We got
we got barbecue pizza.
the peeps s'mores.
Peeps s'mores, man.
That'll be dessert.
It'll change your life.
Candied jalapenos.
The Chiefs.
Yeah.
The Chiefs.
Yeah, you never know. You're walking down the street, you might run into Pat Mahomes. It happens.
Oh my goodness. Kansas City's on the list. I'm gonna write it down after this.
Hey man, Rob, it's been amazing. This talk went I don't even want to say way better than I thought, but
you had low expectations.
Not even low expectations. But like usually, I was figuring like, I was like, maybe we'll probably go for like 30 minutes, but we're at like an hour. You know what I'm saying? Like it was just an amazing conversation from start to finish. So I can't thank you enough for joining us, for giving us your time, and just for this great interview, man. Thank you so much.
This was a blast. You guys have a great energy. This is obviously a great show. Thanks for having me on.
Of course.
Thank you. And keep doing what you're doing. I mean, it's truly amazing. Like, I don't say that just to say it. It's your art is actually like, it even talks to people.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Before we get out of here, is there anything that you would like to plug or promote?
Twitter.
Yeah. Not Twitter. I am on Instagram at Rob Schamberger. There's Canvas to Canvas. It's every other week now. It used to be weekly. It's every other week now on WWE's YouTube. There's SchambergerLabs.com, which is my website where you can go to get the prints and get originals. Keep an eye on WWE's shop. I don't currently have anything there, but maybe there's a bunch of stuff coming, like maybe by the time this episode goes live, I don't know. And WWE auction, where we have the prints that are signed by the superstars, which are really cool too. And yeah, just keep supporting art in general. Yeah.
So make sure you guys support him so we could get those cards. We need those trading cards.
Oh my
God!
Yes,
right?
That has to happen.
Gotta happen.
Make sure you keep supporting him. Rob, man, thank you once again. It was awesome. Manny,
thank you.
You did a phenomenal job, brother. Eve.
Thanks, man.
That's my partner, Manny. That is Rob Schamberger. And we're out of here, man.